weeks later with You Changed the World. And I'm very happy tonight to welcome Catherine Jones as our guest. And this is really a great pleasure to have her and to thank her for joining. Just a few words because I always usually have to start with housekeeping. So I will do that. You have on the right side of the screen a chat that you can use. Now, we don't have much leverage on the chat. We can't answer you on the chat, but we can answer you right there. So please ask questions, share your comments, be proactive. We would love to have an interactive with you. So please do that. And I would like to also invite you to subscribe on the YouTube channel. Important channel. It's an important space where I usually, don't push it too much. But recently, we've been trying to involve more, our audience and have them subscribe because we really intend to put a lot of good content over there. So it comes from the coaching, it comes from leadership development, it comes from many stories that we hear every day. So I think you like it and you'll find it pretty inspiring. So please subscribe. All right. So now I said my stuff. Catherine, hello again.
Hello.
We'd like to just for the few people or a lot more than few people that are watching, finding out a little bit about you. And I know people usually introduce people, but I would love to hear, in fact, what you could tell us about your journey. What is it that is, in fact, most meaningful to you these days, if it's work and also things about life?
Oh, you're kidding me, really?
No,
That's
I'm
so
not.
hard. Okay, I will say this. The most important thing about life right now, I think, is I'm just jumping in there. All right. The most important thing I think about life right now is space. And what I mean is what I think I am learning. Somebody said something once that I was like, whoa, that rocks my world. And what it was when they feel a sense of urgency, they know something is not right within them. And I've spent so much of my adult life feeling a sense of urgency. And the so I'm getting very good at clocking that and stepping back and just seeing everywhere that where I can put space between me and urgency, between me and people, between me and feelings, I am finding more growth. So in terms of life, I think I don't know how to say that much better than that. It's pretty airy fairy, but
No,
just finding like, well, when meditation people talk about that, they talk about like the blue sky, that like that space is, I think, what I think about a lot in life. And I will say, like, there's metaphors for that to me too. Like a year ago I was in the Bahamas a few times, and my
right.
gosh, people don't know, like, I thought the Bahamas was Nassau. I didn't know there were these out islands where you walk on beaches for 2.5 miles and don't see another human being. I can't and then all you see is ocean, and there's something about like that vastness in that space that speaks to me, that calms me in a way that nothing else has before. So
Wow. Okay.
it has nothing to do with
I
business, but it's everything to do with life.
No, I love that. It's an excellent. It's what we in fact talk about very often by asking people to really make some times during the day for creating
Yeah.
that space, right? And look, call it a discipline. And I don't like the word, but call it a structure for your day where you really give yourself something. It's really a gift of time to take a deep breath and to reflect and even
Yeah.
to do nothing. Just take a breath and think of the Bahamas, maybe if you want to.
Yeah.
But that's nice. I
Yeah.
like it. I like it a lot. So,
So
and
that's
now
life.
tell us a little bit about your what you do. What
Okay.
occupies
So
you all day?
I founded an agency almost 5 years ago, like a week after the 16 election. Prior
Right.
to that, I had been in live streaming, like multi-camera live streaming for the arts, and we'll probably, depending on where this goes, talk about that because I understood in 2007 when I first saw when the first live streaming platforms began, March and April 2007, that this was going to be a really critical future for the performing arts. And I spent the
Mm-hmm.
next 10 years of my life trying to build that future for the performing arts completely, you know, honestly, by cashing in my tiny little retirement fund, like unfunded, on everything, just like taught myself everything, taught myself website building because I had to build websites. Like if I was
Right.
going to have a business, you had to have a website. I taught myself how to do that, teaching myself how to direct cameras, teaching myself all of this stuff, teaching myself everything, and got almost nowhere because the industry just wasn't interested. I mean, I really spent 10 years really devoted to that, and the industry just wasn't interested. and still isn't. It's just a little bit more. But in any case, that kind of had me ready in
Yeah.
2016 when that election happened in this country to maybe pivot. And I unintentionally pivoted by launching what started off as a volunteer organization a week after the 16 election and then became what is my business today, an organization that has become called Collective Agency. But we began as about, I don't know, we ultimately became like 400 professional media creators from across the United States
Yeah.
dedicated to augmenting the voices of progressive orgs. And we've obviously evolved away from that. There's almost nothing about that. Well, there's some things about that that still remain. But we mostly work with progressive orgs and social good orgs. And if we're working with corporations, it tends to be on diversity, inclusion, diversity and equity inclusion things. But so that's what I do now is I run this agency that works primarily in digital first content for social good orgs and progressive orgs and for diversity inclusion programs for large corporations. But we'll see what happens in the future, meaning the arts thing might come back, it might not. We'll see.
So it is on hold for the performing arts, you say.
Maybe. I mean, the performing arts wasn't interested, like, not interested. There's so much. I mean, this is something I battle with all of my clients, but it's certainly true with the arts. With the exception of dance, not true for dance. They see
Right.
video as a utility, not as an art form. And as
Mhm.
long as you see video as a utility, it's not going to work because it's not a utility. It's there's a reason why we give Academy Awards to cinematographers and directors. You know what I mean? And that's
Yes.
obviously the high echelon of what we're talking about. But for the most part, in my experience, the arts, especially theater, which is where I'm more grounded, where most of my experiences is in, although dance and music are very, very exciting and interesting to me. Um,
Yeah.
but theater has kind of rejected cameras to a large degree, and when they do use them, they kind of set them up like this and use them as a utility and go, oh yeah, well, people don't want to watch it. Of course they don't want to watch it because you're not creating something that has any tension that anybody wants to watch.
Well, I mean, just aside, it's not really the topic of our discussion usually, but you catching my attention here on something. For live streaming, real time. For me, live streaming means real time, like we're doing
Hmm.
right now, real
Hmm.
time, and some performing art, like theater, like drama, like acting, like production, or concerts and music, are really, in fact, the equation of real time. So if you bring that to and I thought that since COVID, and especially because of COVID and house and then being in the house and working from the house and all of this, that would have been really a good opportunity. No?
Yes and no. Kind of
Okay.
yes and no. I would say well, I'll say this. Dance and music, especially orchestras, have understood live for a long, long time. And when I say
Yeah.
understood, this is kind of what I mean. They understand that it is an and to the traditional experience, meaning you're creating something different. You're not just trying to like give someone a two-dimensional experience. So like Berlin Philharmonic, Cleveland Philharmonic, they've done brilliant, brilliant jobs of translating in a symphony into a visual experience.
Right.
And dance
Right.
tends to do that too. Theater has not. Like theater tends to like set up cameras around a room. And so music and dance did this before COVID. During COVID, theater did a lot of Zoom, like Zoom readings. Nothing
Yes.
wrong with that, but video is visual. And a play reading on Zoom isn't visual. And like if I can turn away and listen, then it's probably not going to work long term visually. And what I'm hearing theaters say is like, well, as soon as we came back to the theater, no one wanted to watch the live streams anymore. And my response is that's because you didn't treat the live stream like an art. You treated it like a utility. So therefore, you haven't created the drama, the tension that people would want to lean into. You haven't created the and experience. You've created an instead of experience. And you want
Hmm.
an and experience, you know?
Catherine is that's very powerful, because I mean, to say that the live streaming is the art, is the message
Yeah.
that I'm hearing.
Oh,
Okay.
I wouldn't have said that. I'm writing that down. Because
No, you said
I'm
it.
trying to talk to people. Well, you just said it in more concisely than me,
Well,
and it's really good.
I think that this is incredible. I mean, that this is but you are doing something I did in my life also a lot. You need to be first, a promoter of something completely innovative, completely new,
Stupid.
and convinced industries, not convince
Yeah, it's
a
really hard.
potential client. So you need a lot of money to do that. But anyway, I
Yeah.
got it. I got it.
Do you have $10
So
million?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's all. Okay.
I'll start with that.
All right, good, good. Well, maybe we can say that it's an appeal, but
Okay.
I would tell you this. I thought of you to invite you over because the intensity of your life and the creativity of an entrepreneur, and especially the courage and the risk taking and all of that. And you started with that space concept that is a real compensation for an entrepreneur. What you said, to be on the beach and to let go and not to, and to let the stress somewhere else and create that space. So that's the first thing that I got from what you said right from the beginning, and revealing a little bit a part of you that you are aware that you need a compensation for what you do every day, for what is the type of risk that you're taking. So all of this pressure and all the stress. Uh, what is it that you think when people approach you and that you relate to them, whoever they are, right? What do you think is the kind of impact that you have on them? What is your DNA about impact?
Okay. So I'm going to reference, I would never have said this until about maybe 2 months ago. Can I tell people how we know each other?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So Andre and I know each other because we both are part of something called Shift Co, which is a coaching organization. But there is this lesson in that, which is something around the word around the thing of finding your purpose. And I found it. It's like a 1 hour class, and I found it to be mind blowing because I've always known exactly what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be, and I've been in a little bit of space for the past year where I'm like, I'm backtracking a little bit, but like I was had tons of work during COVID, but the way that I got through that is I worked 15-hour days for weeks on end, and I don't want to ever do that again. So I've been trying to figure out like where do I want to move? Like where do I want to move so that I can do work that whatever. So that brings me to like how do I think I affect people? This is what I think my purpose is, which comes from that thing. I think
Hmm.
what I'm really good at is catalyzing the possible. So, and I think that that's the effect I hope that I have on people, meaning I have big, big ideas, and I tend to bond with people that have big, big ideas, and I get shit done. And then I hope inspire people to get shit done with me. So that's how I've been able to, on some level, like do things that should have been impossible over and over and over and over again.
Hmm. So,
So,
can you give us an example?
yeah,
Something that was really powerful?
I could say, well, I could say this, like, I could say a lot of things, meaning
Just a
a lot. I mean,
couple.
I don't mean this, well, I don't mean that as a braggadocio thing. I mean, some of it's just the opposite of braggadocio because I've worked really hard and had some really big, brought some big vision things to fruition, but I haven't really seen the financial remuneration for that. So I'm just like flagging that. But I would say like what I'm really, really proud of more than anything is this organization that I've been running for 5 years because I am a woman, because
Yeah.
I haven't done it entirely alone, but I've done the really hard stuff entirely alone. I've never had any funding from anybody. Every client has come from almost, I mean, there was a time when we were a really big volunteer team. Times are different. It's 5 years later. No one's volunteering anymore. Our team is totally different now. But so I mean, so, and my team was everything to me back then, and it's just a very different world. But
Hmm.
we gave each other, and I think I helped to lead this a sense of purpose at a time that felt really, really bleak. We created media I'm really proud of. We were the outsourced media agency for Indivisibles and Swing Left's first years. So first like year.
Yeah.
So and we did some work that I think is absolutely beautiful. And I'm really, really proud of that. And I'm really proud of like the legacy of like it's hard to be a woman running a business. There's just so much unconscious bias that I'm as guilty of as anybody else. Meaning, like we don't ascribe so many things to women. We don't even see it when women do it, and I do it as much as anybody else. So the fact that like we're doing well, we have clients I'm incredibly proud of. Our clients come back to us over and over and over again. Um, I don't know. I kind of didn't answer your question, but
You
I'm
did. No, I
I'm
mean, if
proud of
people,
that.
that's what it is. It's that clients come back again. But I like stories. So I was trying to think about what question can I ask Catherine so that she can reveal a little bit of a story. It doesn't have to be with work. How do you see yourself one day? What one moment? Is there something that happened? And if it didn't happen, it didn't happen. But if it's true, for example, that in someone's journey, life journey, there will be a moment, maybe one only, when that person is going to change someone's life, even save someone's life, but definitely change someone's life. Where you hear the word, the person, like I heard today, someone talking about an epiphany, right? Epiphany is an epiphany, but I'm trying to think of something more. It's a life changer, and you were the agent. Do you think of any
Okay.
story where you
Yeah.
that
I mean, I could tell you what I want to happen, honestly.
yes,
If I could do, I mean, 5 years into this thing, if I could do anything right now, I would go, and I think I can reinvent the performing arts. I really do, for like an online audience. And
yes,
I think that I could make it possible for many, 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 many artists to make a living being artists.
wow,
And
okay.
I think that I can do that. I mean, not just me alone, obviously, but I think I understand all of the mediums necessary to put that together to make it possible for people. I mean, people can do that more than they could when I was in my 20s and 30s, but I think I can make it possible for people to make a living as artists.
So let me reframe that. You're saying that for many, many artists, it's difficult to make a living, and
Yeah.
that this media of yours can in fact allow them to join a business model, I call it that way,
Mhm.
where they will see very quickly, or I don't know if it's quickly, you didn't say anything about when, but from the partnership they make with you, they can expect this to be really a good channel to make a living.
Yeah, and to be more specific, I think like if someone were to build, and hopefully this is me, a performing arts platform correctly, um, it would less be a partnership with me. It would be working through this platform to build a relationship with their audience. Because
Right.
ultimately, we know like that's where, at least right now, like Twitch is such a great model for so many things. And I've worked on Twitch a lot. Obviously, I am not a gamer, and I am, for the most part, a few decades older than most of the people who are on Twitch. So, but that aside, like there's so much about their model that is so pertinent to how today's audience wants to love their entertainment and love the people who entertain them. And I think all the arts have to adopt, even though it feels like to those of us who were born in the 60s and the 50s and the 70s, it feels like anathema to us. It feels weird. That is, audiences want a sense of ownership of their entertainment in a way that I didn't in the 70s and the 80s. And they're like, what's the word for it? Like, they're I mean, they're just deep, deep fans, and they want to be able to express that. They want to be able to express that live in real time. They want to be seen in the medium, and they want to be able to take it to their other platforms, to TikTok, to Twitter. And I think if you can create a environment that enables that, you can embolden a lot of people to make a living in a much more powerful way. Does that make sense?
True. It makes a lot of sense. I see always a trend of changing even the configuration of a theater, for example, or when you're in a
Yeah.
music concert now, you see the audience being right on stage or around the musicians if it's a philharmonic orchestra. So
Yeah.
the audience will get closer and closer and closer
Yeah.
to the performer. Now,
Yeah.
by being virtual right in front of me on a screen and knowing that it's real time and I can interact with that
Yep.
artist, I start understanding a little bit the purpose here, and that it can be very, very powerful. Yeah,
Yeah.
very
It can
powerful
be really,
indeed.
really intimate.
So good. We'll see how it works. Okay, very nice. Good, good, good. Did you have any chance to do this at least once, or
Oh yeah, I've
and
done it a ton of times. Oh my
a ton of
God, a
times?
ton of times. What I've never done is build the whole platform out. I won't go through my resume, but in 2013, me and a couple other people produced the first ever live streamed um, performing arts festival, and that was like my third or fourth live streamed like performing arts thing. But it was 2013. We did 24 shows over 12 days. We had an app, we had a website, we had a platform that you could buy things on, that you bought your tickets on, that you watched the shows on, that you chatted on. But we also had an app that facilitated all of those things. So yeah, I've done it too. I mean, that was 2013. That was 9 years ago.
Yes.
But
Okay.
yeah, I've done all of those things, and I with no budgets. Now I want
For
to do it.
those who are French like me, and
Yeah.
went one time into the festival of Avignon, right in the in the west of France, and the atmosphere of this festival is it's a very old city. It's been there for decades. It's a theater festival, and groups of actors come from all over the world, and they perform there. and it's on right in front of a cathedral, outside on a very old
Gorgeous.
Roman theater, with the stars at night and the whole setting. That's one thing that maybe the virtuality might not
Oh,
reproduce.
totally. It's never an instead of. It's an and, never an
It's
instead of. Like, and I just
right.
like I can't like stress that enough. It's not an instead of
Okay,
ever, and that's why I think problem COVID is it became an instead of, and that's just and
you're right.
it has
You're
to be
right.
an and. It has to be something that makes you as excited to go in person. Like there's I like to work in a space with my like me who spends my life on virtual stuff. I prefer to work with my team in the same space. Like there's a reason to be. I was there's a
Oh, simple. Yeah.
yeah. There's a reason for all of these
Of
things.
course.
I totally agree.
Of
Totally agree.
course, of course. All right, good, good. Again, I was just forgetting when I was telling you about the experience of the festival and the
Yeah.
city. I forgot. No, no, no. She's creating an art of the streaming.
Yep.
It's not only a space; it's just an art itself, just by
Yeah.
streaming people. So let's not forget that. And you know what? I love it because the first time we talked about art was with an artist not long ago, maybe 2 months ago, Pierre Gervois, who is an artist in crypto art, right? And he was
Oh,
telling us about, yeah, he was telling us about all his creativity and that he's an artist. And even I dealt with him on business before. He said, Andre, I didn't mean it. I was not sincere in my business because I was not meant for it. I always was an artist. I always wanted to be an artist. Anyway, all of that. And you remind me of the same thing when we talk about art, performing art, creativity. It looks like there is new spaces, new ways to promote it, new ways to have collectors, for crypto
NFTs,
art.
which is what I'm sure he's working on,
Yeah,
is is is
yeah,
is an
yeah,
example of that. I mean, it's nutty.
yeah. He's
I,
an
I did a pretty
artist,
deep
so
dive into NFTs, and I'm
yeah.
not certain of their viability long term, but it's still really, 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 really
It's a
interesting.
little bit yeah. I come from a generation now that I'm not sure yet. I have to work a lot to kind of integrate this into my system, but I understand. I understand. And again, what's very important is how much all of this is meaningful for people. How much do they
Right.
recognize something for them that speaks to their soul, to their
Yeah.
to their purpose? And this is
Okay,
what
so I think
I'm
this is
looking for.
fascinating. Okay, so this
Yes.
is what I think is fascinating about what you're talking about because I feel like
Uh-huh.
we're at like this crossroads in our culture.
Yeah.
So I'm on Instagram all the time, but I follow artists. I mostly follow like artists and architecture and beaches. I think there's this disconnect between exactly what you're talking about, like people looking for that bigger thing, but we're in this world where everything's about what we used to call personal branding, which even back then I was like, that is sounds like an almost violent term to me. There's something that feels very wrong about that. But mostly we open up our social platforms and we're seeing the opposite of what you're talking about. We're seeing like curated human beings who are one dimensional, like a brand. Like a brand is not really a human being. A brand, in fact, is not a human being unless you ask Mitt Romney. A brand is like it doesn't have feelings, it doesn't have nuance. It's just happy or sad, and that's what so many of us spend a lot of time putting out there in the world. And I think that you're also right that there's this great need for this other thing, and part of it might come from this kind of disconnect of like what we're expected, how we're expected to behave on social, and what our souls really want. You know.
Well, I'll give you my 1 cent on this, and it is that branding, as you say, for people to really create their own brand, is forcing them to connect to their core. They need to understand who they
Mhm.
are, and if they are lost in their identity, the brand is going to be damaged. So they need to be coached. For example, in my case, to first connect to themselves and see how they want to create a perception of themselves. That becomes the brand. I mean, the brand
That's so
is what,
interesting.
right? It's a presence. It's how I want to be perceived in a situation, even in a situation, not in general. I'm going to, in fact, adapt my brand to different situations. I want to be perceived if I'm now in a meeting with a board of directors, and how I want to be perceived when I present something to a potential client, right? So,
Yeah.
uh, in this, my brand is going to be recognized. My DNA will not be comparable to any other brand, and this is what you're building over time. You become unique for who you are. So the more you know who you are, and the more unique the more connection to your DNA is going to really work out for you as a brand. And I
Yeah,
think it's
that's
really
interesting. I've never
important.
heard anybody talk about it that way. Like I've never heard anybody talk about it, and in a way
Yeah.
that has kind of depth and nuance the way I feel like you have.
I see what happens. It's really how people really can really be conscious about it, aware about it, and be proactive about it, and start
Hmm.
designing their brand with. So they don't need a design agency. They might need your agency to express themselves once the brand is defined. And I hope that it can be a platform for them too. But thank you. This is really a fascinating world in which you are. I mean, I've never realized what you were doing so much. Even when we were meeting like this, we were talking about more about how to be coached in order to convey the message out there, and
Yeah.
you conveyed it to us today. I really appreciate that you
Oh,
came
good.
for that.
I'm so
Yes,
happy to.
I
I'm so
do.
happy to.
I don't see anything yet on this chat. So if you have any questions, guys, or any willing, in fact, to be connected to Catherine, connect with me, and you know where to find me. It's www.andrepolitzer.com, and over there you'll have a connection, and be able to write me, and I will convey the message to Catherine. Okay, that's the way to do it. I think the best way to do it. So thank you again, Catherine.
Oh, you're welcome. What a
Any
pleasure.
final word that you want to say to us?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay,
I
good.
do love what you said about brands. I've never heard anyone talk about personal branding that way. I find that word turns my stomach, but you've made me a little bit more open to it. From
Okay, so we'll talk about it again, and I
okay,
hope you to see you again also. If I
okay,
agree,
good.
I will probably get back to you. Thank you so
Okay,
much,
thank you.
Catherine. Thank you, and thank you everybody. Take care. Bye.